how can this person must exist somewhere? Has a career. She must be somewhere. She was hiding down under.
Yeah. What was the line?
Make Stiffy with tail.
Yes, I forgot about that.
I can't believe it didn't make it in the movie.
Right, Malaysianism.
And I may or may not, David, have gotten a call at one point. David wants to sing a song in the scene with Florence. He has an idea, wants to sing a song. All right. You can always cut it out.
Yeah, exactly.
And it is great. And it is one of the highlights of the movie now.
Hello and welcome to Entertainment Weekly's Around the Table with Black Widow. My name is Devin Kogan and I am joined by Florence Pugh, Rachel Weisz, David Harbour, Kevin Feige, and director Kate Shortland. And we will be joined by Scarlett Johansson very shortly. Thank you all so much for joining me.
We have to go back to where it all started, so they never do that to anyone again.
We're a family. We fight with you.
I'm so excited to get into this with you guys, but I wanted to start by asking, how are you all feeling now that this movie is finally coming out? I know it's been a long wait. Throwing it out to anybody.
That's a horrible thing to do on a 6-person Zoom, I have to say, but I will start. I'm very excited. And you know, it's funny because I want to talk to Kevin Feige right now, because I remember when we sat around when May 5th of 2020 was coming around and we all had this meeting. And I mean, I had in my head, I was like, come on, guys, just put it on Disney Plus. And Kevin was like, no, we're going to put it on the theaters. You know, it's important for Marvel movies to be in the theaters. And at that time I was like, I don't know, man, I don't like this at all. And then now that it's coming around and theaters are reopening, I was wrong. I'm super glad that this movie is being released in theaters. I mean, this is a big movie and it feels like it is a type of movie where I want to go into a dark room and have to put my phone down for a second too, not like check my Instagram while I'm watching something. I'm like, put my phone down, be in a dark room and just like let this thing wash over me. So I'm really happy it's coming out in theaters, and I'm really happy it's coming out at this time when we're all starting to be able to come back out again, because it's a special thing what Marvel's done and how these movies occupy our lives in a mythology now. And we can all kind of come together and be a part of this as this pandemic, goes down in a certain way. I think is great.
I tell people my sister moved out west. You're a science teacher. Your husband, he renovates houses. You're thinking about moving, but you're gonna wait until the interest rates go down.
That's not my story.
Yeah, and Kate, I want to ask you a little bit about the tone of the film. You know, you've got all these, big, amazing action set pieces, but you've also got these really lovely, small character moments, which can be sometimes very sad and sometimes really funny. How did you want to navigate and really find the right tone for this story?
The tone comes from the character. So the character has beautiful light and shade in her, and she had so much emotional landscape that hadn't been explored. We start the film where she's kind of afraid. She's afraid of the possibility of life because all she knows is to be in opposition to another person. She doesn't know how to be an individual. So it was really beautiful starting with that very small moment with Scarlett where she's alone. And then gradually we introduce all these other characters. And those characters open her up to the world. And then by the end, they're like this beautiful, formidable team or a community or family. It was a great experience because I think any director loves to work with great actors, and we were incredibly spoilt.
Kevin, I know you had talked about making a Black Widow movie for a while. How did you, and you ultimately settled on, setting this story after Civil War, but before Infinity War. Did you ever discuss any alternate stories for Nat or setting this story sort of in a different time?
When we were developing this movie, which we knew was still going to come out after Endgame, we talked about a few possibilities and a few different ideas, but not other than that. No, we just knew once Kate's phone stops ringing, we could focus on the movie, making it the best it could be. It was always envisioned after the Infinity Saga to go and look at. There's a very specific moment in Civil War where Natasha has a conversation with Tony Stark and then leaves frame, and then a very specific moment in Infinity War where she returns in Edinburgh with Sam Wilson and Steve Rogers. And this film sort of fills in that gap in a way that doesn't just fill in what she literally did during that time, but that fills in this other part of aspect to her life that was very important in her formation of and ideals about family, and why she was very skeptical about family, and why ultimately the Avengers became something that filled the idea of family for her. And that started to be what we circled with Scarlett and with Kate and with my fellow producers, Brad Winderbaum and Brian Chapek, on what this story can be and how it could be very, very personal to Natasha.
Before I was an Avenger, before I got this family, I made mistakes choosing between what the world wants you to be and who you are.
And Rachel, Melina, I want to ask you a little bit about Melina because she's such a sort of fascinating character. What was it like? What was it about her that particularly intrigued you and sort of made you want to, join this, the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Well, the whole script I thought was really incredible. It was a real honor to be invited to join the family. And it really does feel very family-like, which is quite incredible because it's such a big operation. And the fact that Kate was directing it she's someone I've wanted to work with for many years. But Melina, she just was very unusual. I mean, she's a Black widow. She's an elite spy and a scientist. But then there are all these other qualities to her that just made her very unusual to me. Her lack of humor, her pigs that she lives with. It was just there's so many contradictory things about her. I hadn't really ever seen a character quite like that. So I was, she was a really interesting challenge, and I really loved playing her.
Yeah, I do have to ask about the pigs. How was sharing a scene with them?
They were extraordinary. Kate, do you remember the breed of the pig? I can't remember the name, but they were...
They're New Zealand pigs, and they were really hairy, and they had lovely tails, didn't they, Rachel?
Yeah. And didn't they have nipples? Didn't they all have chin nipples?
Really,
they had chipples.
You can see we loved those pigs. We loved them like they were our own family. I actually have a charm around my neck, which Rachel gave me, which is one of the lines from that scene that was vetoed, but it was a great line about the pigs.
Yeah. What was the line?
Make stiffy with tail.
Yes, I forgot about that.
I can't believe it didn't make it in the movie.
Great Malenkism.
Not totally PG, but there was something very moving about. I've never acted with an animal before. It was extraordinary. They upstaged us quite often, didn't they? And then to have your favorite pig be named after the love of your life that you've been pining for 25 years, my beautiful pig Alexi, that's been keeping me company. It's very unusual. It's not often you get to tell a story like that. Yeah.
I think we're going to need a spin-off movie just about the pigs, just to give them their real starring moment. So I wanted to, you guys mentioned, this wonderful family environment. And I wanted to ask a little bit about, there's the great family dinner scene that you guys all filmed together. I want to ask each of you, but Florence, what do you remember most about filming that dinner scene particularly?
I remember that from the get-go in the script, that was the scene that we were all discussing and we were all going over, and we were all trying to make sure that it was like a family, that it was funny, that we all reverted back to our old ages, and then at the end, there is a bigger conversation. And I think from the beginning in the rehearsal period, that was a scene that we were all psyched to do and so willing to work extra hard to prepare it so that it was, as as wonderful as we all imagined. And then when we actually got to it, it was just so ludicrous that we were all in super suits, sat at the dinner table. Mom is telling off big sis because big sis is doing this, and then dad is telling us to, it just all reverted to normal family life. And so I think we all had hysterics for the hi.
Speaking of big sis.
Speaking of big sis, we're talking about the dinner scene and just how wonderful and how hard it was to get through it without laughing, because there was so much improvising going on, and there was lots of food on the table that was questionable, and there were pigs. I mean, it's kind of like a recipe for disaster, but it came out really well.
That scene was Kevin's idea, let me say.
Aww.
So when I came on and started working with Marvel, the script went through many different iterations, but that scene he wanted from the beginning, and it stayed. I think we got to understand it as we got closer to it. And I think David said earlier that it is like these kind of archetypes, and what the actors did and the writer was break them apart. So it was like we got to play with stereotypes, and it was fun.
It was the bane of my existence for the whole development time, because Kevin had this idea, but it seemed impossible to bring this group of people together in that dynamic. And actually, to Kevin's credit, that's what makes it work. But if you fight against it, it's just, it was hellish. It's like, this doesn't make any sense. Of course, it doesn't make any sense. That's the whole point. It took me a very long time to understand that. I got it. I just got it, by the way.
Well, I do think that's part of the joy of it, is to embrace the contradictions. There's even a moment when we come to that scene. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've seen the final cut, so forgive me. But I do think there is a moment where we end up, like, we meet Melina, we go to see, and we all just kind of walk to the house. And I think he gets into his suit and we all just kind of sit down. There's a little conversation. We kind of sit down in this ritualistic way. So in a sense, you could view it as somewhat like, this weird arbitrary thing, but it is in its essence that contradiction of these people that are living these crazy, spectacular lives, just like coming together and just having a meal and falling into that dysfunctional, like, sit up straight. What's wrong with you? Come on. That's so charming and wonderful.
Here's what's going to happen.
Natasha, don't slouch.
I'm not slouching.
You're going to get a back hunch.
Listen to your mother.
Oh my God, this...
Up.
All right, enough. All of you.
I didn't say anything. That's not fair.
Yeah, that's something that's so extraordinary about this film, is that, like, obviously you have the big action set pieces and the explosions and the crazy things, but it really, like, you think about the moments that this story really hinges on, and they're the little moments, just bickering over the dinner table, little shared moments. That's so lovely.
Yeah, there's like personal stuff in there too. And I remember developing some of that stuff when we did pre-production that was very profound for me. And I think Kate really allowed us this week before to really pick apart. The script was already very good, but we really went and picked apart these things and made them even more personal and specific. And I remember specifically, with Florence, that song that we have together, and just this history that something like that could evoke, where it's like, oh, maybe this was a transitional object for her. Like when she was struggling, that he would put her in the back of the car and they drive around, and listen to this music in Ohio. And that's the power of little things like that were very personal moments. I think were very well observed. And they were something that Kate was really interested in. And I felt like, as you were always very interested in pushing. I mean, I've never felt quite as pushed by a director as I was with Kate, in a very good way. Like, she's very drawn to the truth, even when circumstances are silly and fun. And she's very drawn to the truth and to personal, resonance. And I loved that aspect of it, is that there is detail and you can sort of look more deeply into a secret life behind these things.
All of the actors, I remember Rachel coming in very early and sitting in my office with Brian Chapek and I, and going through the script and talking about her character and adding and changing things, and Scarlett would and Florence would. And we were really open to that if we were keeping the essence or the heart of the scene, but the actors were often just making it more beautiful and making it more real. And I think that was a really great process because Eric, the writer, was also in rehearsals.
I've never experienced that you just explained so eloquently, Kate and David. I've never been on a film where Brian's written this incredible screenplay, but that he was open to all of our ideas, and some of our ideas ended up being part of the story and part of the character. And I was very surprised by that. I don't know. I mean, Scarlett and Kevin, you should tell us if that happens on all Marvel. Is that just what you guys do? Because I found that just, I don't know, really moving, actually. It's like, oh, God, this is this giant movie. You want to know our ideas. Does that always happen on Marvel films, or is it just because it was Kate?
No. I mean, it was that's, and Scarlett can speak to it, but certainly plussing on the day and figuring out a better way to do it, and even allowing the crazy ideas. This dinner scene was important. We knew it could be the linchpin to the whole film. And I may or may not, David, have gotten a call at one point. David wants to sing a song in the scene with Florence. He has an idea, wants to sing a song. All right. You can always cut it out.
Yeah, exactly.
And it is great. And it is one of the highlights of the movie now, which is why you have to stay loose and calm and go, okay, let's try it. Will we still make the day? Yes. Okay, good. Let's try.
That's why it's fun. Because we could always improvise and we would always get what was on the page, but then the actors could just take it in all different directions. And that was one of the really fun things about making the film.
And I think you feel that, like the chemistry in the dinner scene as a result of the generosity of Kevin and Kate. And then the fact that when we all came together, I get giddy just being around them and become this doofus entertainer, because there is just this dynamic that exists between us and existed very early on. And I think Kate is very smart and generous to be able to go like, let's capture some of that. Like, let's let these people really live in that way. And a lot of other films on this scale won't let the actors do that, and I think they suffer for it. So it's it's very smart and it's very special.
What now?
We're getting you out of here. Go to the upper level. Move your ass, super soldier.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Scarlett, because, obviously this is a character you played for so long, but you served as a producer on this movie. And what was different about that? Did you feel like you got to, it sounds like you got to have a lot of, sort of conversations on set and sort of talk things through about, here's what, I know this character so well. Here's what I think, we might want to try.
Yeah, it was very different experience for me from in many ways. Every film that I've made with Marvel, I've had the opportunity. I mean, Marvel really, and this is really, Kevin is, sorry to speak for you right there, but he's a huge movie, like cinephile movie buff and movie nerd. And I think that's why you have such extraordinary directors raising their hands to work for the studio. And, the first film that I worked on, collaborated with Kevin on, was directed by Jon Favreau. I mean, talk about somebody who can like improvise on the spot and like makes everything better in the moment. And Joss Whedon, an incredible screenwriter, joke writer, and storyteller. And the Russos as well are two very fresh, hilarious, one is a performer, and both of them really great kind of comedic minds as well. And so it's not uncommon to be on the set and have the work elevated on the day by these amazing directors. I mean, all very varied, obviously, but with such brilliant minds and brave kind of confidence directing styles on, each unto themselves. Kate fits seamlessly into that. I mean, immediately, Kate is so confident. She has an incredible way where she has impeccable taste. She's so cool. She has an amazing visual vocabulary, and she's an actor's director.
I think it's smart because when you get tired, you just say to the actors, what do you think? You can just go. Then I'd sit behind the
She's also really lazy, apparently.
And then I'd sit behind the split, and they were so funny that I would be crying sometimes, and also crying through the beautiful emotion that they brought to it. So it was a joy, working with these guys. It really was.
And I will say, I think we've talked about this before, but worth repeating, Devin, to your question about Scarlett as one of our producers on this. Brian and Brad were meeting lots and lots of people, and it was Scarlett who said, "Hey, have you thought about Kate Shortland? Why don't you consider Kate Shortland?" And brought her films to our attention and her to our attention. And my memory was, Kate, you weren't available, or maybe weren't even like Marvel schmarvel.
No, I didn't think I could. But it was really
Scarlett that pushed for you to get on our radar, and then for you to, I think, even consider it. Scarlett talked you into taking those meetings. Yes,
she was hiding out in Australia.
Exactly.
Yeah, I couldn't find her. It was like,
That's right. Which is usually not a great sign with a film. He's not calling you back. Forget it.
I feel like it was basically a year and change that I was like, how can this person must exist somewhere? Has a career. She must be somewhere. She was hiding down under.
I was so scared when Marvel approached me. I couldn't think that I could do this job, and I didn't want to do a job or a film. Film's not really a job. It's your life when you take something on board like this. And so initially I just said no, because out of fear. And it was so great. It was one of the best experiences for me to actually get over that fear and do this film. And yeah, I'm incredibly thankful.
All right, great. Well, I think that brings us to the end of this, but I wanted to say thank you all so much for joining me. And that's the end of EW's Around the Table with Black Widow.